All right, so it's Todd Atkins, and I'm here with Kaylene Cabral. And Kaylene, I appreciate you taking time to talk with me today. And before we start, for anyone watching this, I have sponsored Live to Fight Design. We're doing a giveaway on fight banner, gym banner type stuff. Maybe you should try to win it, Kaylene.
Oh, yeah, I already joined. I
Yeah,
tagged all of my teammates. I annoyed them with it. I
yeah,
told them they should do it too because I have a couple teammates fighting within the next month. So
yeah,
I hope I win.
yeah. So if you take my promo code, if you see it up there in red, it's my name, Todd Atkins. You can get $20 off your order. And so, Kayleen, I kind of wanted to get into like your early training. I know you were a wrestler initially. Now, did you do anything before that, or was that kind of your first exposure?
I would say that's my first exposure. I mean, I've always been active. My mom always tried to put me, in swimming. I did track and field, softball. But I think once it got to middle school, I think when things got a little more competitive, that's when I started, not making the cut for the tryouts. And then kind of how I got into wrestling was when they couldn't cut anyone, you're automatically part of the team. So I stuck with it and I fell in love.
Now, how many females were wrestling at your school at the time? Do you
Oh,
remember?
yeah, at the time, once I got to high school, I believe it started with just me. I believe there might have been like one senior, but throughout the years, sophomore, junior, senior, I think it got up to including me like four girls. Um, and it was actually prior to I think CIF having a girls wrestling only tournament. It was always co-ed, and an all girls wrestling tournament was kind of unheard of. It wasn't until my junior year when I got to finally participate in regional, like that section of, of the Central California, and then actually qualify for state. So it was a good experience to be a part of, kind of like historically.
Now, how big was your high school, you think?
Oh, super small. I'm
Okay.
from a very small town in Central California. Numbers I'm not too good with, but definitely down there
So
where
that's
everyone
probably
knows
what,
everyone kind.
yeah, so it probably wasn't, that's probably why there wasn't a lot of
Yeah,
girls wrestling time.
yeah.
Okay.
It was
Yeah,
kind
that
of
makes,
frowned upon too. It was like a male dominant community.
hmm. Now, let me ask you this. So you start wrestling, but what was your first exposure as like to MMA? Was it through watching or was it something else?
No, it was so I met the assistant coach who we learned that he was looking for wrestling shoes. Hey, I wrestle, you wrestle? He introduced me to jujitsu. And I was unfamiliar with MMA at the time actually. He told me come check out the gym. And then just so I started with jujitsu. I transitioned to jujitsu and then just being around my now teammates, they introduced me to MMA.
What year was that, you think?
I believe that was 2017,
Hmm.
2018, a couple years now.
So you really weren't a fan of MMA before you started training then?
Yeah, it was unfamiliar territory to me.
Yeah, it's kind of unusual. Most people are already into it in some way before they get
Yeah,
pulled into training. So you were the opposite.
yeah.
That's interesting. So let me ask you this. So when you start training, I know you're a wrestler, but like I was watching your fights, it seems like you like maybe standing up a little more. Am I right about that or
Yeah, I am heavy. I do think I have a strong kickboxing game. I would love to utilize my wrestling. In my second fight, I was heavy on working my wrestling game, and I even incorporated judo in my training for that camp. Unfortunately, there's still holes in my games where it was hard for me to try to find that transition from striking to getting to the ground. I still think I have, like in all my jiu-jitsu tournaments, I'm very good with my takedowns and I still trust in my wrestling experience. But I'm still learning to incorporate that now with striking. So I'm hoping for the next fight that's going to be a goal is to get a couple takedowns in.
The reason I ask is because do you think you were gravitating more to striking when you started training, or were you looking more for the wrestling to take
No,
down the
not at all.
ground?
Yeah. Yeah, I was really I I really wanted to go back to the roots and showcase that. So I really was looking for it. Um and again, I think it was just like a little lack of experience of at the time.
In your training, I mean, that's what I mean. Like when you
Yeah.
first started training, did you want to kickbox more or did
Oh
you want to
no,
wrestle
no.
more?
It was sorry, it was all grappling groundwork. I
Hmm.
When I learned that you could use wrestling and jujitsu, that's when I became interested. And I initially was only doing jujitsu classes. And then it wasn't until, throughout the time the coach Rob was like, our Muay Thai MMA classes are getting kind of low, like, you guys should come check it out. And then we had this awesome female who's one of my best friends now. She was 6-0. She has like 5 bouts. She inspired me to kind of get in the cage.
So what year was that when they kind of start approaching you to fight?
I want to say it was 2019. I
Hmm.
had my first fight. It was my first one against Mackenzie.
So you've
If
been
I'm
training for a year basically when they put you in there.
I want to say it was like about 2 years. Um, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that because some people they train for a long time, then they start to fight.
Hmm.
Some people they train for a short time, then they start to fight. Where did you have any apprehension to starting after training for a short period of time, or what did you think as far
No,
as that?
not at all. So I'm the one that actually approached my coach first, and he was a little, hesitant. He kind of had a standard, show me that you're dedicated, show me that you really want this. At the time, his requirement was at least 2 years. But once I showed how much I wanted it, he finally put me in there. Let me try it out.
Okay, so I watched your fights. Like I was saying, the first one was the McKenzie fight, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So that one did you break your nose or no? Because I was watching with
No,
the sound off, so I didn't. I have no
yes.
idea.
So I already kind of have a deviated nose right here, that I had ever since I was a little kid. Um, I was not expecting that. I don't know if I'm prone to nosebleeds because it didn't hurt physically, and I honestly didn't know I was I was like bleeding like a faucet until
Mhm.
I think we got to the ground. I lifted up my head and I just saw all kinds of blood. Um, so that caught me by surprise. Again, I wasn't phased. I think she either just hit me in the right spot. But I learned I'm probably more how do I say prone to, I'm more sensitive in this area.
Because she came out real aggressive. She was like,
Yeah, yeah, she was a dog.
yeah. And that same as you, I didn't notice that you're bleeding until the takedown happened. I could see. Then I could see.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Uh,
when it happened, because it was a lot, what you weren't, you didn't, you said like you didn't notice it or you weren't too.
all I knew, because I know in amateur, I was told, if you get hit back to back, then they stop the fight immediately. So all I knew in my head, as soon as I dropped to the ground, I just knew, just don't stop moving, let them show them that you're still fighting. So that's when I quickly went for the takedown. My head was down the whole time. Wasn't yeah, and then I got up and I noticed her. She was wearing her white sports bra. It was hard to miss all the blood.
Yeah, it wasn't white after that. Yeah. But they didn't stop to check on you though
They
during the
did,
fight.
not during, after the round ended.
Right.
And then I remember the doctor asking me like, "Do you want to continue?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." I don't give up that easily.
Yeah, I mean, you got through it. A lot of people wouldn't have, once they would have shut down already. A lot of fights that happens. They're bleeding
Yeah.
that bad and you know. So I want to ask you because it's interesting to talk people like when people win, there's not a lot to really, they don't, some people don't really study what they've done. But
Hmm.
when you lose, and I know as a wrestler, you're probably harder on yourself than other people. Wrestlers tend to
Right.
be harder on
Yeah.
themselves. Let's talk about the first one. After you watched it, or how much did you watch it, first of all?
I did. it was paused a lot, and I was just going back and forth in slow motion, just picking at the little details. My coaches also watched it, so I could get their perspective on it. Um, it wasn't a crazy lot, but enough to learn where my holes were at. Um, yeah,
But I mean, what did you take away from it?
at the time, it was definitely. I think I was very. I forgot how to be explain, like one plane. Very just forward and back. Need to work on my movement. Definitely my boxing. Um, I know I got a good, like I said, my strengths right now I would say are kickboxing. So those were pretty decent during that fight. Um, and aggressiveness, actually, that's actually been one of my main pointers for a lot of like my feedback is just being aggressive. And I guess I think at the time I was kind of stunned by like her punches. Um, mentality too was a big one.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, oh, be aggressive. I mean, it's your first match, your first fight, so it's not
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's not always going to be that way. But
Oh
so
yeah.
you weren't, you didn't really feel like when you watched it, you were just kind of, they were like your coaches where they kind of said, okay, you need to do this or that.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely had a game plan, and I think everything happens for a reason. So this, loss, I took it as a lesson, because I felt as if I would have won, knowing myself, I may have been complacent in my training and in my camp and thought that this was enough. But I felt like it was a good debut to have. I feel like I can't, no one can put me through anything anymore because I feel like I probably been through the worst with this. Um, so I have high hopes that everything's just going up from here.
Now the second fight you had like 2 years later,
I believe it
about
was. I don't know if 2020 had happened. I get my years mixed up, but yeah, I think it was some time off.
because your first one was November 2021 and the second
Oh,
one was
2021.
January 23. So almost
Oh
a
yeah,
little under
yeah,
2 years. And the second one, you could tell like you were more, you know, I would say comfortable, so to speak.
yeah. I felt confident. I felt like I gained a style and kind of found my groove. I learned, what I like and dislike in my style. I felt good being light on my feet. Felt like I was moving a lot. Um, yeah, honestly, that one, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't watched a lot. But when it comes time to get back into fight camp, then I'm gonna rewatch it. But my coaches have watched it and they gave me the feedback already on it.
Why did you not want to look at it?
I don't know, it's just something that I mentally just had to prepare for. I guess it's a little bit of being upset because I a part of me did think that I won the fight.
Yeah, yeah,
And it kind of came to my surprise when I heard that it was 30-27 all the judges.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess a little frustration.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were gonna say. Because like I said, I was working in my room, but I was watching it with the sound
Having
off. And I was like, this one's, it could, she might have won this fight, and so I figured
yeah,
that's what you were gonna
split
say when you,
split decision. I think I would have been a little more content with. But props to her. She Angel punches hard. And it was a fun fight.
now that one, I think you came out, you were kicking a lot in the
Yeah,
early parts of the
yeah,
fight.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel more comfortable. I'm very confident with my teeps. In both my fights, I landed a teep to the face, and a spinning heel kick. I feel a lot more confident with my leg kicks.
Now, in your trend, like how much you think you train a week
Oh, every day I'm
every day?
here 6 days a week. Soon to be seven. Now that our judo class is now on Sundays, so I'm gonna be here 7 days a week now.
Now, that particular event, like, was it the same event you fought in both times?
The same promotion, it was, yes.
So do you know if they have a plan to, do you know like a date when they might bring you back or no?
Yeah, they've hit me up. It didn't work out the last time. But I hopefully might have one with another promotion who I really love the family and everyone who works there. Up next fighting. So I'm hoping to get on their card August 12th. It's just a matter of if the dates work for both of us, whether my teammates are fighting, because we kind of have to take turns. But that's the next one that's coming is August 12th, UNF.
So up next is the one you probably would do next.
Yeah, yeah, I really I love the way they treat their fighters, and they've been nothing but nice to me, my teammates, and my coach, and shown love. They are very giving, very friendly. So I just want to show my appreciation, get on the card, and I think it's a great organization. So I'm excited to have a debut there.
Now, where do they have their events usually?
Same, it's on the same Commerce Casino in Southern California. We try to stay local, which I don't mind staying local. If there is a fight somewhere else, and my coach is down, and I'm down. But for the most part, I feel like Southern California is has the toughest competition. So I don't mind staying here, and the Commerce Casino is big and very roomy, heated AC, so I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, I mean Southern California has always been kind of a hotbed for ever. Yeah, so it's definitely
Mhm.
high level there. Let me ask you this: like, in your training, have you mostly just trained at your gym, or do you train with other people sometimes? Or
Yeah, I mean, there's been times where I do seminars. Whenever a gym has like one of my favorite fighters doing a seminar, I'll hop on it. Um, we have a lot of fighters come to our gym during sparring days, so I get good work with them. There's only been a few times where I've gone to other gyms. One specifically, Black House. Out they're out deep in Southern California. I've just gone like a handful of times for their sparring days, but I try to stay here at my home gym and then just do seminars whenever there's one out.
tell me about your hometown. You told me it's kind of small. What is small? Like, how many people live there?
Oh well, okay. So my gym's here in Canoga Park in LA, but my hometown is about 2 hours north from here. It's called Delano, California. It's very agricultural, like ranch. It's actually the town where Cesar Chavez started his movement, the strike. So very proud to come from a town like that. Yeah, I don't know. At the time, it was like everyone knows everyone. Um, there was only, I believe there was only one high school up until like the early 2000s. We didn't have a movie theater. The nearest movie theater was 30 miles away. We had to drive out there. So I think you kind of get the picture like that. I mean, we had a Kmart. Now we have a Walmart, probably like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's probably similar to where I live now. Like, I lived in some big cities. I was in the military. I lived in on Oahu. I lived in Japan and places like that.
Oh, well.
But the place where I live now, there's about 10,000 people or maybe less. But I kind of like it because
Yeah,
it's quiet. Nobody's
yeah.
around.
No traffic.
Yeah, they all know each other. They don't know me, but because I'm not from this area.
Hmm.
I'm from another area that's maybe 20 minutes away that's bigger. But most people in this town, they all know each other. So yeah, I can relate to what you're saying.
It has its pros and cons.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think when you're older, like when I was younger, I probably wouldn't have wanted to live in a town like this because
Yeah,
you want to do all this stuff. And
yeah.
but when I'm older, I'm just like, yeah, I don't.
That's my thoughts
Yeah.
exactly right now. I was like, now that I'm getting older, I was like, I am appreciating like the more isolated areas.
Hmm. Yeah, no crime and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I like it. It's good. But so getting back to kind of the fighting stuff. So I wanted to ask you, like, we talked about your training, we talked about your fights. Maybe talk about like some of the other fighters that you've maybe drawn some inspiration from, or who do you watch?
Um, I actually one of my first fighters that I learned about was Tatiana Suarez. because she comes from a wrestling background. And she's actually really nice. Like I hope she still follows me on Instagram, but she's messaged me back a couple times. I'm very humble. And I think she was also like out in like here in the Southern California area. I draw the inspiration from her. Jackie Butan she's a Filipina.
Mhm.
I think she also came from LA. Now she's in one championship. I love her style. Um, I mean, there's a lot of fighters. I try to gain a lot of inspiration from female fighters because I feel like we could kind of relate to a sense. And I locally, I mean, like personally, and the my friend that I mentioned before, she was a big inspiration. Like I said, I physically witnessed the grit and the dedication she had in the gym, and I was even though I was new, I got to be her training partner, and she just led by example. So she'll forever be an inspiration of mine. Her name is Oneida Diaz. Um, Former 115 Spar Star champion, and Camo, the California State champion as well. Um, yeah, more than lately, I've been following a lot of Thai fighters. I feel like one championship has it's weird because I feel like they're equivalent to kind of the UFC, but it's two different styles that you see. They're MMA and then UFC's MMA. It's two different styles, which I kind of enjoy seeing one championships more.
You're picking up on something, but maybe you don't realize it because you're younger. How old are you?
Oh,
Can
oh,
I
I
even
can't
ask?
answer. You can. I'm 28.
Yeah, you're younger. And plus you weren't watching the UFC. You know, when Zuffa first bought the UFC, they wouldn't take anybody unless they were kind of a high level in something.
Hmm.
Jiu-jitsu, judo, wrestling. Now they'll just take people. You know what I mean? Like, it's not to say some of them aren't good, but they
Yeah.
don't necessarily have to be elite at anything. They have certain amount of events. You have managers that get people in the UFC.
Yeah.
One FC, I think, is kind of like the UFC was early. Everyone they bring in has, got a pretty high reputation in something: wrestling, Thai,
Hmm.
Muay Thai, Jiu Jitsu. So I think you picked up on this, even though you probably don't even realize it. You know, it's that's how it is. I agree with you. Like one, there's really nobody in one who'd say they aren't elite at something. They may not be
Hmm.
elite at all the arts, but they're elite at something.
Yeah.
And that seems to be their preference is to take people like that. UFC, they're just taking all kinds of people now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can see why you like it better. It what you're saying is true.
And I
You
think
know,
I hope it's fair to say that you kind of have to be like a likable person. Like, there's the other side of business where you have to bring in the people, the money, that too. So I think that is a huge influence on their fighters.
who the UFC.
Yeah. UFC,
Well,
yeah.
that and they've cut costs. Because when Endeavor bought the UFC, they're cutting costs. Part of that is fighters. Like
Hmm.
they have their own little. They didn't always have this farm system. Where they could take from these different events or the contender series. They had to
Yeah.
take people just like one did. So yeah, it's interesting you say that because you're right. You're right. It's a probably didn't realize it, but what you're saying is true. It's interesting to see that. I don't know if it'll be that way forever in one, but it's
Hmm.
definitely that way now. Yeah. That's interesting though. You're drawing more inspiration from because most fighters in the US are pretty focused on the UFC primarily.
Yeah, I would say I noticed that too.
Yeah. So let's talk about Filipino because I know you drew inspiration from Jackie Bontan, but maybe talk about like being Filipino. My wife's Filipino. I was telling you about that. Um, Maybe talk about culture and some things that from that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm half Mexican and half Filipino. I'm fourth generation Mexican, first generation. My dad came, believe in his early 20s, from Bulacan. I don't speak Tagalog. I'm sorry, but he, didn't know barely knew English. Unfortunately, my parents divorced at a young age, so I wasn't with him a lot. But I spent a lot of times with his brothers and sisters, and they were young. They were like teenagers raising me. So I did pick up on like a lot of the Filipino culture, the little traditions and stuff. But now that I'm getting older, I do love to learn more about my roots. So what I've been noticing, is that I don't see a lot of Filipinos as much as other ethnicities. So I hope I could shed some light on be an athlete that represents the Philippine community in the future.
Yeah, Hawaii has a lot of them in
Yeah, yeah.
fighting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I know that.
yeah, a lot of the
Um,
ones that are fighting on Oahu,
I think
have.
Bellator too. Um,
Yeah,
Whenever I see the Bellator Hawaii fights.
yeah. Rich Cho, he's from Guam, but he lived on Oahu a long time. He was their matchmaker, so I think he pulled from Oahu a lot because of
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah. Now, tell me, maybe since we talked about the Philippine part, maybe tell me about the Mexican part as far as like maybe some of your thoughts and inspiration from that too.
Well, from what I know, I think it's fair to say that Mexicans are very hard workers. My great great grandparents, who I actually have tattooed here, they came from Mexico and they built a name for themselves, and they built the house that my all these generations of like my family have been living in. So I want to carry on that kind of work ethic and make a name for myself and just show that my family lineage is just a bunch of hard workers and um yeah.
Have you ever been down there?
No, my mom never let me when I was little.
I've never been down there either.
um yeah. I hope, being fourth generation already here in the States, it kind of lost we kind of lost in touch with who we know out there. And unfortunately, my great grandma's still alive, but my grandma passed, and she was kind of like one of the last who knew family out there that I didn't really get to learn from her. But I try to gather as many stories as I can from my family lineage, because they're a huge inspiration to me.
But I mean, your family members, have they ever like, do they encourage you to go or
To
no?
Mexico?
Yeah,
No, not really.
no.
They're not. No, it's mainly like I said, like my mom and her generation. I wouldn't say they're too in tune with it. It was more my grandma and then my great grandma. But unfortunately, as time, they can't travel anymore, and I don't think they really. We've never really talked about it.
Because I know like some people don't go because some parts of it are getting a little more
Oh
risky to be.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's why my mom didn't want me to go.
Oh,
I
okay.
do, I do know that my family's from Sinaloa, and I just
Oh,
hear some bad things about that area.
hmm. Yeah, I was wondering because, like people here don't really, I'm in Oklahoma, people don't really talk about that stuff, even though there are a lot of
Mhm.
Hispanics here. But I was wondering what your family's saying. Don't go because of this, or were they saying, or they never say that? You said they do
Um,
say it sometimes.
yeah, well, yeah, it was my mom who didn't let me go because of that. And then with my grandparents, I don't know. I think I was too little at the time.
But now that you're older, have you ever thought about doing it, or still maybe
Yeah,
not?
of course, I still want to go. Obviously, I would have to do some research and like track down my family, but I would go with like trusted friends that have been there multiple times and that have family out there that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah, that's cool. Because I've talked to some fighters in Mexico. Some different ones. Maybe I'll have to put you on to some of them. But yeah, in Cancun, especially like a couple of them there. But yeah, I mean it's interesting because I'm curious about going too. But I've been kind of hesitant about going just because
It's hard, yeah.
I guess because I'm just
Yeah, I
like
was.
that.
No, it's understandable. It's a fair concern.
Yeah. Now, I know we've talked a lot about this, but maybe as we're kind of winding down the interviews, there's something that maybe we haven't discussed or something that's important, and also like where people could follow you and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I just have I don't have a fight nickname. I just have Kaylene Cabral as my IG handle. Um, I don't want to put a nickname yet, just because I want, people to know my name, Kaylene Cabral, and I want them to remember that name. Um, and like I mentioned, I draw a huge inspiration from my family and from my town, from the people around me. Um, Also coming from, we talked a little bit about wrestling, and coming from a small town. The main reason why I do it too is just to inspire the people like from my small town that they don't have to be complacent. I got a lot of crap for moving out here when I was just going to community college because they were just telling me I'm wasting my money going to community college, moving to LA. But I mean, I have no regrets. It led me to where I am here today, and I just want to inspire people that don't listen to when people shoot down your dreams. Even though I'm not where I'm at, I'm very happy with where my life is heading. I have high hopes, and I just want to inspire a lot of little girls and people from Delano to just dream big.
Yeah. You're not wasting your money going to community college
Mhm.
where you get core classes. It's probably cheaper to get them at community college anyway.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was just, like that small mindset,
Yeah.
high schooler talk. Good thing I didn't listen to them.
Yeah, because mostly you're getting your cores anyway. So what does it matter?
hmm Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Is there anything else as far as like that we didn't touch on or something that you think is important that you want to leave people on with this kind of a message?
Um, I mean, yeah, give me a follow if you feel like, we're like you kind of resonate with me. If you don't, you don't, and that's perfectly fine. But I'm nowhere near stopping. I'm gonna keep going until my body physically allows me to. Um, so I have big hopes that there's big things coming with UNF, with here in Southern California, and we have connections to other promotions too. So that'll be in the works. So just if you follow me, I recognize everyone who reaches out to me, and that stays with my heart. Like I have screenshots, all the things like nice people have said, and I like to look back at it from time to time. Um, yeah, and I love meeting new people too. So we could, I feel like with story sharing and following each other, I feel like we could inspire and just learn a lot.
You were talking about how long you're going to fight. Do you even have any idea, or you're just kind of taking as you go?
Yeah, I'm taking as I go. I mean, I feel my own opinion is that I feel like I kind of started a little bit late. Um, so I just want to fight as much as I can while my body still allows me to. Because I'm not oblivious. I know we kind of decline at one point. Um, I mean, I don't know, hoping maybe mid 30s, late 30s. Just depending on where life takes me.
Like how many more fights you want to have this year?
Well, I've had two MMA fights. I'm and if my coach is down, like I say, like if I get enough experience, 6 to 8 fights, then I want to go pro. Um, what's We're halfway into the year. I don't know. I'm hoping to get like two or three more. That might be a lot. Maybe like yeah, 2 to 3 more fights this year if I can. Um, but like I said, I'm also sharing time with my teammates too, so they gotta get their time in. But yeah, I'm just trying to get it ASAP because I really do have like a burning desire in my heart to go pro.
Are you doing any like jujitsu competitions or no gi or anything?
Yeah, I try to stay active as much as I can. I actually just competed at Jiu Jitsu World League this past weekend. I did 10 Planet small in-house tournaments. With Jiu Jitsu World League, I believe there's about like 3 or 4 a year. So I'm always in those tournaments.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I appreciate you, saying yes to me. And I couldn't do these kind of interviews with people like you that were willing to do them.
No. Well,
And
thank you for having me. Like, I feel like, I learn a lot about myself and then about like, I like meeting new people, every time I do these.
and yeah, we'll have to catch up sometime when you have another fight
Most
or whatever.
definitely. Yeah. Well, we'll talk soon. Hopefully, if I win the banner.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, you have to keep on it. Yeah. It's coming
I'm
up
gonna
soon.
keep.
It's
I'm
the
gonna
12th.
annoy you guys. Yeah, I'm gonna keep on tagging people.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate taking time to do this, and everyone who watched this, be sure to follow Kaylene Cabral on Instagram, and keep supporting her. And until next time, take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.